I always sort of have to have something going on, and I typically look for that to be something that I love. When you can do something you love as a work, that's really where you find the special elements of life.
Welcome to Story and Craft. Now, here's your host, Mark Preston.
All right, here we are back again, another episode of Story and Craft. Thank you for stopping back by. If this is your first episode, my name is Mark Preston. Glad to have you here. Today, David Arquette, an actor who's been on the scene for a long time. A lot of folks know him initially from his work in the Scream franchise of movies. He's done a lot of TV, done a lot of film, comes from a very talented family going back a couple generations, I think. But of course, his sisters, Rosanna, Patricia, Alexis, very talented family, to say the least. Great conversation, really enjoyed it. He's got a new film out. It is called The Good Half. It is with Elizabeth Shue, Nick Jonas, Brittany Snow. Watched it with my daughter Lily. Really enjoyed the film. Something kind of different than you're probably used to from David Arquette, but it's a good film. You should check it out. Hey, do me a favor real quick. Always have a small request to make sure to follow Story and Craft. That way you get notified every time a new episode pops up. Also, everything you could possibly want to know about the show is at storyandcraftpod.com. You can find out where the show is on social media. You can send me a note. Always love getting notes and emails and stuff. Also, you can find out about our guests, and pretty much, again, everything about the show is right there on the Webernets for you. Also, this is my first episode and an official empty nest home. My youngest daughter, Emma, off to school this past Saturday. She's the third one out of the gate, so it's just me here with our 4-month-old golden retriever, Ranger, who you might hear banging around in the background, actually. He's quite rambunctious. And hey, I got you here with me, keeping me company, so thank you. I appreciate it. All right, so let's get after it. Today is David Arquette Day, right here on Story and Craft. So you're in Nashville. Isn't Jack White up there in Nashville, I think?
Yeah, Jack White is out here. He's incredible. The stuff he does to conserve music is just his like collection of stuff. I've met him before. I met him with Paul Rubens, my dear friend who we just recently lost.
Oh, I am so envious that you had a chance to hang with Paul Rubens.
He was the best. Yeah, he was the best. He turned me into a vampire. On Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So we'd been friends ever since. He was just one of my dearest, closest friends.
He seemed like a real mensch.
Yeah.
You know, seemed like a real solid citizen.
Yeah.
But how long have you been in Nashville for? Is this a new thing for you? Have you been out there for a while?
4 years. We came out here and started a farm and a garden.
Really?
Really, yeah, my wife's from Arkansas originally, so she wanted to raise our kids outside of Los Angeles.
But that's cool. How much land do you have up there?
It's a nice farm. We have a bunch of animals. We have many cows, too many horses, a mini donkey, ducks. A garden. It's just really beautiful.
That is awesome. Now, you have one daughter, is that correct?
I have one daughter and 2 sons.
What are they thinking about the farm situation? Are they down with it, or are they kind of like, oh, geez, here's Dad doing something?
No. Oh, it's my wife too. She really is crazy about the animals. But no, they like it. They like it a lot. It's a new experience for them. My 10-year-old. He was really fond of Los Angeles just in general, and coming out is a bit of a change for him. The 7-year-old wasn't as aware, but my daughter, she comes out too once in a while. She loves it here. It's really peaceful.
So she's still in L.A.?
My daughter's going to school in New York.
Is she just started, or is she going to be going into her second year?
Yeah, she's going into her second year. She's really enjoying it. She's loving school and.
Yeah, my mind's doing the same thing. She's doing her gap year down here with me, bartending at a big beach bar.
That's cool.
So she graduated a year early, so she decided to do her gap year down here with me.
That's good, yeah.
But she's starting in Florida, so all my kids will be in college, which is, holding the tears back.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, being in Nashville was the weren't you in a band, or wasn't music part of your ecosystem for a while, or is it still kind of something you're doing?
No, I was in a band for a little while. But it is something I'm still doing. We're working on music for Bozo the Clown. I have a wonderful songwriting partner, Graham Wheeler, and we're making some incredible music, some really fun stuff. We're gonna debut it very soon. But yeah, I love music. I mean, even in filmmaking.
Didn't you purchase the rights to Bozo? Am I correct?
Yeah,
Isn't that what you did?
yeah, I purchased the rights to Bozo the Clown. I'd always loved the character and spent 15 years trying to acquire the rights. Finally got it, and now we're doing a documentary about sort of bringing that clown back. Um, we're developing a feature film for Tubi. We're completing an album that we've completed the album. We're just doing the final processes to get it released. Yeah, it's been really fun to experience it. We introduced Jozo Bozo, the first female Bozo the Clown.
So what was the impetus for that? What was beyond just really enjoying Bozo? Was there something like you wanted to kind of keep Bozo alive as far as for kids, or what was the idea behind, getting the rights? And
The idea was just, it was always a dream of mine to keep that character alive. That's really important. There's so much history about Bozo that we explore in the documentary, and just that, a lot of people have a real fondness toward that character, especially in Chicago and sort of the Midwest, and really all, for certain generation, it was a really important thing. But we found that we've kind of lost that sort of happy, silly clown. So we're gonna try to, do our part in bringing that kind of joy back. And we're doing a huge charity event here in Nashville. That's a citywide baby shower. So we've gotten all these donations for expecting mothers, and we're gonna be giving them these diaper bags and some strollers, and we're just really excited about the opportunity to sort of celebrate, the experience that they're going through, and Jozo Bozo will be there, and His Royal Highness, who's another character we've introduced from my friend Keenan Walker, who's really great. So yeah, we're gonna put on a big show and free popcorn and cotton candy and balloons.
there's something I grew up in Dallas, and we had somebody. It wasn't a clown, but it was the same kind of thing. It's Saturday mornings or whatever. It was called Mr. Peppermint. It was the thing, and he had like this red and white striped suit and a little cane, and it was the same kind of idea. It was sort of in the ecosystem of Mr. Rogers, and it's funny because his son is Gibby from the Butthole Surfers, which is kind of a contrast.
Oh yeah, but, he kind of had a complicated story, right? That guy.
Yeah, I think that would be a diplomatic way of putting it.
Yeah. I heard stories.
Didn't you also? I seem to remember there's a Bob Ross connection. Didn't you Aren't you teaching Bob Ross painting, or are you certified or something? Please pardon me if I'm getting this wrong.
No, I'm a certified Bob Ross instructor. I typically use it for charity events. But yeah, I can teach people how to paint like Bob Ross. I can teach you how to paint happy little trees in his same style.
Now, is painting something you do as kind of a cathartic thing to relax, or is it just something is it just a skill you wanted to pick up, or is it something you still do regularly?
Yeah, I first started doing sort of graffiti murals, graffiti art, so lettering and sort of characters. And then that evolved into taking art classes at school. And then I do the Bob Ross stuff because I always loved his style of painting. I was always fascinated by how he could complete a painting so quickly. And then I went down and I studied in New Smyrna Beach, Florida. I took a course, a 3-week course where I got certified. And then I've worked with the Bob Ross company quite a bit in just going around doing charities, doing different events. I've done like corporation team building exercises. It's really fun because a lot of people think that they can't paint, but Bob Ross's whole style and the kits that he puts together are all designed for anyone to be able to do it. So if you can explain it to people, my when I do it, it's not as sort of soothing and kind of mellow as him. I really want people to pick up the style. So I always tell them, like, don't overwork it, because Bob Ross never overworked it. He'd just do these kind of things, and you'd use the paintbrush in a certain way, and it would just create this beautiful picture.
His story is really interesting to me because, like everybody, he's known for kind of having that big perm.
Yeah.
And it was not as much a style choice, from what I understand, as more of an economic choice, because when he was in the Air Force or something, he was trying to save money, and he figured, well, this means I have to go to the barber less or something.
That's a true story. Yeah, that is.
I don't know what kids now are watching. I know my kids were all Disney Channel and Noggin and all that, but I don't know I don't know if there's anything out there like that.
Yeah, they're watching a lot of YouTube. That's pretty much what my kids watch entirely.
I know you probably every time you sit down and talk with folks, just like, yes, I know I got a very talented family. I know that. But I'm kind of curious about more the origin, like how you, in growing up, how did you land? Was performance always something on the horizon for you? Or is it something you kind of like, I'll give it a swing, and going back to junior high, high school, whatever have you?
I always loved it. Like, a lot of my father was an improvisational actor, so that sort of was in our blood really early, and we'd do little skits and stuff. And then I remember playing a game called Freeze, like, where people would be doing a scene, and then you'd say freeze, and then you'd come in and take over the scene and like change it. And so that I just always loved that kind of process and that experience. So I remembered loving it, but then when I was sort of a teenager, I was kind of rebellious and didn't want anything to do with it. My sisters were making a name for themselves, and I had a really amazing drama teacher named Ben DiBaldo who was doing a play at my school at Fairfax High School, and he really inspired me. I got to do the play there, and he really gave me confidence that I did have a talent that I should explore, and that and then I got more comfortable with it and just sort of built off of that. And just being able to work in this business for 30 plus years has been really an honor and something I've really enjoyed.
Now, you grew up in Virginia, correct?
Yeah, I was born in Virginia. I only lived there for a few years. Then we moved to Evanston, Illinois, where I fell in love with Bozo the Clown. And then,
I was about to say,
then we moved out to Los Angeles, where I was pretty much raised since I was 5 in Los Angeles.
Okay. So you're really young. I gotcha. Yeah. So in the birth order, you're the third or fourth kid.
I'm the youngest.
You're the baby. Okay.
I'm the fifth. I'm the fifth youngest. Yeah.
One of the things I've always appreciated about you, there's never been one thing you do. You're, as far as genre and like the side, well, not side projects, but the other things that you enjoy doing. Are you more of a restless type, or you're always kind of looking for something that grabs your attention, or kind of how do you go from acting into everything else you're up to? Is it something that's just kind of like organic? That's who you are.
Yeah. I try to find things that I love. Like, I love Bob Ross. I love graffiti art. So I do stuff like with art in that direction. I love, celebrating and having parties and having fun. So I, worked with H Wood Group and opened Bootsy Bellows, a nightclub in Los Angeles. And I love, Bozo. So I would focus on that. I love wrestling. So I would take, wrestling. It's also self preservation element to it as an actor. It's if you're waiting around for your next job, unless you're writing a script or a filmmaker on your own part, it kind of can be really tedious and kind of really hard on my type of personality to be waiting around and just not know what happens next. So I always sort of have to have something going on, and I typically look for that to be something that I love. I think when you can do something you love as a work, that's really where you find the special elements of life.
Do you have more of a carpe diem, disposition, it seems like, towards what it is you're up to, and I really appreciate that because, God, I remember I was 21, I interviewed John Favreau, and the first time it really registered with me that he said that, whenever a film wraps, I'm out of work. And I never really processed it like that. So that's got to be a little bit, you have that valley of time between gigs, you're filling it with things that bring you joy, which would probably make you a better actor, I'm assuming,
Absolutely.
Last night I checked out The Good Half, and what I enjoyed it, I think it's unique, it's sweet, but you're not the most pleasant guy. You're always like the friendly, fun guy, but with this, you're not really you're not very much, you're not a mensch. So
No.
do you like that eclectic vibe? Like, do you like to do things that you haven't done, or do you like to, if you have a choice of a character type, or does it even make a difference to you? Like, is it just what is magnetic for you when it comes to a role?
Let me see. I don't know. I don't know. He was really just a funny character. Brett wrote a script that was based on true events of his experience and going through this in Cleveland. And, Cleveland gets a really bad rap in this film, but it's an amazing town and everyone should visit it. I love Cleveland, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I remember him coming out of the airport in that one scene. It's like he's speaking to the girl he met on the plane. And it's like, yeah, Cleveland, great weather and all. It immediately was no love for Cleveland right then, but it's,
I know. I think that was from the writer's personal experience of this time in his life. But aside from that, playing a character like this is really kind of fun. I mean, he's a complete narcissist, so he looked at everything in a sort of different disposition than I did. And I have to hold back laughter at some point, and sometimes he would always be in his head thinking about how it affected him, or like his take on it, or worried about how much money is this going to cost and how can we get out of here sooner. And if you come from that point of view, it informs a lot of your decision making. And there's one scene at the end of the movie where I get upset with Nick Jonas's character, or he gets upset with my character, but I get really angry, and I'm angry, I say some really hurtful things to him. But what the audience doesn't know, and nobody really knows, is that my acting sort of, my source for that anger was funny, because in the script, I'm written in to be part of this drive from the characters take a limousine from the funeral to the party afterwards, or the memorial service. But Robert said he was making this decision. He said, listen, David, I'm not going to have you in the limousine ride. And he was just like, I was like, okay, no problem. I have another 2 hours off before I have to go to work. But what he didn't know was that Rick, the character, was really upset about that. Rick was like, how dare you not have me in that car? I paid for this limousine. Oh, I'm not going to be riding in this limousine like you guys are all riding, and I'm not allowed to. That's what made Rick so mad about that scene. And it wasn't even about him being mad at me for telling a joke. He was just angry about this limousine ride, to be honest with you. So that's where my drive came
That
from.
was one of my favorite scenes in the movie, because what I like is that tension, and I don't want to give too much away. I don't want to give anything away in the movie, actually, because I really enjoyed it. But you just kind of felt like there was something simmering under the surface. You weren't fully freeing the beast, but you had some things you had to say. And in that time, honestly, in that moment, there was probably the most empathy you had for the character in the whole film right then. Okay, I kind of get where this guy's coming from. Don't necessarily agree, but I see where he's coming from. He's made his case.
I know.
It was fun because Matt Walsh, I spoke with him a little while back. He's such a talented dude. I always love watching him show up, and he was kind of a fun counterpoint as a dad, to who you are. Kind of go back. You mentioned the wrestling thing. I am so curious. I grew up in Dallas, where the Von Erich family was really big. In fact, my son and I were watching Iron Claw, and we haven't made it all the way through. But what was your draw to wrestling? Is it the theater of it? What was it that pulled you in that direction?
I just loved it so much as a kid. I loved the theatrics of it. I loved the extreme characters. I loved the humor of it. when I was growing up, it was Junkyard Dog and Hulk Hogan and Rowdy Roddy Piper
Mhm.
uh, and Jimmy Snuka and like all these kind of really larger than life characters and Andre the Giant and Macho Man Randy
Oh yeah,
Savage.
yeah.
And I love Miss Elizabeth. I was head over heels for her. So I don't know. I always just sort of love that world. I got sort of energized by it when I watched Ready to Rumble. I mean, when I was part of Ready to Rumble. And then I went on a tour to promote the film, and I toured with WCW, and they ended up making me the champion. So the fans got really upset at the fact that an actor was the champion. I was looking at it as like I'm the one of the first like fan champions, but people got really really upset. So I went back. I went back and I did the documentary "You Cannot Kill David Arquette" to sort of explore why they got so upset at me. And through that process, we kind of discovered like, oh, it's people dedicate their lives to it. It's like generational.
Yeah.
It's really, it's a lot deeper than a lot of people understand, and a lot more goes into it. And it's really grueling work, and you have to really, put your body on the line. So I have the utmost respect for wrestlers, and just having to go through that and have this
Oh yeah,
is,
kind of like when the movie The Wrestler with.
yeah.
But yeah, The Wrestler for me was just like it was intense. But you realize there's this fun theater and all that, but behind the scenes is just the taxation on somebody's body that they put themselves through to do this thing.
Yeah, it's real, and there's so many elements of that uh, film that are real that you kind of experience. And when you're going and you're doing the indie circuit, you show up, your hotel's not there because they got it from some kind of website they overbooked, so you have to like figure out where you're going to sleep that night, kind of thing.
I'm not a big fan of wrestling, quote unquote, fan of wrestling. I appreciate it, as but it seems like there's storylines, and that seems to be the thing that people kind of get. It is theater to a great degree, but there's reality built in because it's really your body doing it. But it's the storylines that I think people kind of, it's almost like, what it feels like to me. It's almost like soap opera for dudes.
That's a funny way. Yeah, for sure. It's when you really like one of those characters.
When I don't know, I was a little kid, I just remember kept hearing about the Von Erichs, and they would always show up on commercials in Dallas. And you didn't have to be into wrestling to know who the Von Erichs were. I don't know how in the overall world of wrestling how many people knew about them, but I know in Dallas there was a really big deal.
Yeah, they were legendary.
Is that something you still have a passion for? Is like you want to be involved in, or do you kind of want to kind of show up as a surprise? Or is it kind of like, okay, I've done that thing, or is it something you still want to play with a little bit?
Well, I've never had an action figure. It's one of the sort of wrestling, the notches, plateaus you want to reach. And I was a former heavy, world champion. So the fact that I don't have a figure is kind of upsetting. But I'd also like to be in a video game. I think that would be really fun.
Yeah, have you ever done voiceover or anything for video games? Or, I thought I'd seen something that you'd done some video game stuff at one point in time. Not wrestling, but have you done anything like that?
Yeah, I've done a couple. I was early on. I did SSX Tricky. I played a character named Eddie in a snowboard video game, and then the next one I did was an ESPN football game, and then I did recently I did The Quarry, which was a horror sort of video game where I played a character in it, and they scanned my body and all that. I really enjoyed it.
That seems like it'd be so much fun. The voiceover stuff I do is completely unrelated to that, but I've always wanted to do the video game thing for fun. Like my son, he was playing was a Red Dead Redemption, and I know like a bunch of the guys that are in it, So it's kind of weird. Like, well, doggone it, I should have done that when my kids were young. They would have thought it was cool.
Yeah.
How did your kids perceive you doing the wrestling thing? I'm kind of curious. What was that like? Like, Dad's on TV, but now he's doing what's going on here? Well, how was that received by the young folk?
Well, we had a wrestling ring in the backyard, so that part was really fun. They loved climbing on it and running around and wrestling and meeting all the wrestlers. And, there was, some injuries involved, so they'd see Dad come home all beat up a lot of the times. That was kind of tough. But they liked it. They enjoyed it. It was a fun period of time for sure.
Well, have they expressed any interest in doing the acting thing? What's your perception on that? Are you trying to encourage it, or are you like, yeah, I don't know about that? Or is your daughter like, hell no?
My daughter loves like theater and singing and performing. She's a natural as well. She's just really great at it. And my two boys, yeah, they love acting too. It's kind of like the thing. They like it more than they like sports, so it's kind of interesting to see that element.
Really?
They love, yeah, they're natural performers. They're jokers, and they like, one of my sons especially likes to clown, like clown around and dress as a clown and put on the shoes and follow and do pratfalls and stuff like that. It's really funny to see their personalities evolve and, see what they find joy in. And just really, that's really what it is all about. Like, whatever you love, you should pursue and not let anyone stop you.
Now, your daughter's kind of that age where she can, if she's into it, she can move in that direction. But like, what pieces of advice are you dropping for her to, make sure she's kind of staying on a good path?
Yeah, she's got a wonderful head on her shoulders. And, we purposely, she'd been doing plays all throughout, her childhood and all these, community theater. So, she'd done a ton of stuff already by the time she had gotten to college and started studying with all these incredible teachers at her school. But it was really kind of making sure she didn't get in too early. It was part of our like protection. Just, if you decide to do it later, like, but as she was growing up, there was always like little times where people kind of came up and were like wanting her to audition for something or this or that. But we just really kind of didn't want her to pursue it professionally until she was old enough and she sort of understood the world in general. It's a kind of
Yeah.
complex world when you get thrown into it at a young age.
Yeah, I think because you don't really have as much to pull from, and I think you probably don't have as much kind of Kevlar built up to deal with some of the stuff that comes at you. But one of the things I always hear that I know my son's girlfriend mentioned it, something about nepo baby and all that, which I think is just nonsense because is you've worked in the industry long enough, it might get you one gig, but unless you can perform and really bring something, you're not going to be hired. So that's one of the things that I think, obviously, based on her lineage, people will look at her. Is it something that you want to encourage, or are you just going to let her kind of come by it on her own? I mean, she's got lots of people in her family to ask questions of. I'm kind of envious of her. you know.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to it. I mean, we're actually fourth generation. Our generation goes back to vaudeville. So, is yeah, it's funny. I mean, it definitely there are elements that open the door. There's also elements that, make it harder to a certain extent. I mean, I feel very blessed to have the opportunities that I've had. But it's a complex world. It's a complex business to be a part of and kind of try to even wrap your head around it. To keep a good attitude about it. It's a business of like when it rains, it pours, and when it's dry, it's really dry, and it's really tough on your mental state or like yourself. Your opinion of yourself and sort of it's hard like when you're just not working. That's always why I had different you know business kind of opportunities going on at different times, because to rely on acting alone is really a difficult thing.
Thing I'm curious about, though, you mentioned vaudeville. That's kind of a cool lineage to have. But like, where are your folks from? Are they from the Virginia area originally, or your people? Where do they emanate from?
uh, well, they did vaudeville in Toledo, Ohio, actually. So maybe that's why I have such a soft spot for Cleveland. But Yeah, they originally my family line came through on my father's side came through uh, Canada through Montreal, and then they came down and they settled in Toledo, and that's where they did like a small kind of, my grandfather said, like a rinky dink kind of a vaudeville act, and then my grandfather picked up the skills there and then toured as a piano player with and did did an act himself and then made the transition from radio to television. And then my father was an actor as well and studied in New York. And my mother, that's where he met my mother in New York. My mother was originally from Scranton, Pennsylvania. And then they both met and they were both performers. And you kind of learn it as you're going up. As if, you know, your father was a contractor, you'd probably learn how to build a house better, or a gardener, you'd learn how to plant, you know, better. So it's all this kind of stuff.
Were they encouraging you to go that direction, or were
A
they
little, I
like,
mean, you know, I got rejected quite a bit, like trying to find an agent at a young age. You know, I did a play at a library when I was really young, like a little, you know, little kind of play, but I loved it. I remember loving it. And then a lot, you know, I did little, you know, Gilbert and Sullivan in elementary school, and always remember enjoying the process. But you know, it wasn't until met my teacher Ben DeBaldo in high school, at Fairfax High School, who really inspired me gave me the confidence to feel like I could actually do it. So as much as all that stuff, I mean, when I was growing up, a lot of it was kind of intimidating, the fact that my family was in it and that my sisters were becoming famous, and you know, people would want to be your friends because of that certain thing. So there's all kinds of elements with the nepo element. It's kind of funny. I find it just sort of funny, but it's a hard business in general, no matter how you are.
yeah, I mean, I always thought that whole nepo thing was it's got to be nonsensical because yeah, it might get you, may open a couple doors, but it certainly doesn't necessarily consistently get you work. What haven't you done that you can go, you know, that would be fun to do. That would be a good challenge. Is there something on the horizon you're like, I want to do that?
You know, it's right. The more older I get, the more it's like working with the right people, the right, you know, other cast members, the right director, the right story. You know, you just have to be pretty really selective about that. A lot of the time, I do things for different reasons. I'll do a kids movie because I want, you know, my kids to be able to see it, and you know, something that was super silly, or you know, do something dramatic just to show some range. But it's really hard. Like sometimes you sign up for an independent film, and it's just not as you know, once you get on the set, they're like, listen, we can't have this, you know, we can't really afford the car accident. I was like, well, the car accident's a pretty major part of the thing. And if you kind of half ass a car accident, it doesn't really play as much and it doesn't give it the weight that it was supposed to. So it's hard to kind of judge a lot of those things. So being selective, but I don't know. I love I don't know. I love all kinds of different things. So it's just more the quality of the story. I mean, I would love to do a series, a really great series.
Yeah, that's something that I've talked to a couple people lately. Like, I just want to get a good series, you know, because now we're in an era where what's happening on TV back in the 80s, early 90s, you can't really bounce back and forth from TV to film. It's like once you've transitioned, you know. But now it's like seems like people want to take a good bite out of like a cool character for a series, like a like multi-season series or something. You know, one other note, I just did a cursory. I don't do a lot of prep. I just kind of like to sit down and chat with folks. But I did see a little note that you had a clothing line with Ben Harper. Do you still do that? Is that still something you're, or am I right in saying that?
No, no, that was a 3 year experience, which was really costly, but a great educational experience. That's another example of like something I loved. So me and Ben both had a love for the garment industry, and just fabrics and clothing and design. And so it was a really wonderful learning experience. But no, it doesn't exist anymore. But we're producing different T-shirts and different, Bull Airs just made a Bozo shoe, which is an amazing shoe company. So yeah, we're designing some new Bozo products. So it goes into, you learn different skills that then you could use in different departments.
You must be a Jedi Knight when it comes to time management. I'm doing a few things, but I'm like, how does he manage all this stuff? You must have a good team of people who give you a hand.
I have an incredible wife. She's really, Christina Arquette is really the secret, the ninja behind it all. She's wonderful. I mean, she's she wasn't around when I was doing the clothing line, but the I don't know. You just focus the time on the things it's getting harder. Like Bozo was a big undertaking, so this has been kind of a lot to juggle. No pun intended, but it's been really rewarding, and it you give it time and you just sort of work on it, and you find time to make meetings and make things happen.
Do you have a website, or do you have like a Bozo Central where people can kind of find out about that? I mean, or have you gotten that kind of far into the process? Bozo Central. I never thought I'd say that phrase, but
Yeah. There's bozo.com, but it's still it's in all the stuff that you see of Bozo out there right now is connected to the documentary that we're making. And there's a
okay.
lot of sort of like crashing and burning and kind of figuring out the process. So there's like little videos and stuff out there, but they're all sort of geared toward that. So there'll be a bigger sort of movement of the Bozo brand, a bigger whole undertaking when the film comes out, when the album comes out, when the documentary comes out. So that's all going to be. But there's Bozo's Barnyard, which you can check in on the farm we have here on Instagram, and just follow me on Instagram as well. That will sort of tell you what I'm sort of been up to.
Now, what do you have on the horizon next? Anything TV film wise right now, or are you kind of taking a little break, deciding on what the next thing is?
I have little things. I mean, not little things, but I have projects that I've done that are coming out. I have a little role in a movie called Holy Trinity. That's a really exciting Western. Let's see. I have a few other things. I just completed a film called The Perfect Gamble. Just an amazing film with an amazing group of people. I just did a smaller role in a film called Stranglehold. So I have a few things coming out. It's always kind of weird.
I have a quick, I would call them like 7 questions before we kind of wrap things up here. It's just kind of fun. I always end up talking food at least once during the show. But first question, what is your favorite comfort food? That one thing you just like when you're having a great day, a bad day, but it's always a solid choice for you.
Oh, man. Well, they have barbecue here in Tennessee. That's really exceptional. I love cooking barbecue. Homemade meals are really wonderful. And a good chicken pot pie you can't beat.
Oh, I love a good chicken pot pie.
Yeah.
Even a not good chicken pot pie is still good, but that and chicken fried steak.
Yeah, I love that too.
Now, the next question I got for you, if you're going to sit down 3 people, you're going to talk story for a few hours, living or not, who would 3 people be you'd like to sit down with and just kind of share, learn, just chat with for a while?
Definitely. It would be Paul Rubens, Alexis Arquette, and Luke Perry. I was going to just get all my dearest friends back together and just sit back and just hang out again.
Paul Rubens, I am so envious. Everybody I know that has interacted with him was just like, he's just a sweetheart of a guy. Super talented and smart as well, That sounds like a fun coffee, without a doubt. But now, the next question, celebrity crush. Who was your first celebrity crush when you were young?
I think it was Miss Elizabeth. I'm not kidding. I think it was Miss Elizabeth from Macho Man, just because My wife looks just like hers.
Now, does your wife know about this connection, though? Did you explain to her, it's like, "Hey, you look like Miss Elizabeth." Have you ever mentioned that to her?
Yeah, she does. She does. There's a fun thing we do in You Cannot Kill David Arquette, the documentary that we kind of explore that.
Awesome. I do wanna watch I tried to find it, I can't find where it's streaming right now. I wanted to watch it, though, so I gotta get on a Roku and do some digging around. Now, next question, if you're gonna be living on an island for a year, it's somewhere you wanna be. It's beautiful, it's exotic, it's spot on, but no internet, all right? So, you gotta bring a DVD of a movie, and you gotta bring a CD, I'll even say box set if you want to. What would that movie and what would that album be that you would bring with you for that year?
Um, I don't know. I mean, I always say like The Godfather too is like probably one of my favorite movies. But if I was just like having to sit and watch it over and over again, I'm gonna go back to Paul Rubens. He used to always play That's Entertainment, which is like a box set. So you could kind of get all these different experiences. And I don't know. I know that sounds like a
No,
silly
no, no.
thing, but Paul's on my mind a lot right now. And
You know what just popped into my mind just now is everybody remembers Pee Wee, but my first experience was a Cheech and Chong film.
yeah.
That was my first time ever seeing him. So seeing him as Pee Wee was like, wait, I was way too young to be watching Cheech and Chong movies, but I loved
The
him.
waiter.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so good. Yeah, yeah. That's the best. Just to give you a wild movie that people should check out if they haven't seen, The World According to Garp really like touched me. Like when I was younger and saw it, it was just like a really impactful kind of movie.
Robin Williams.
Yeah, he was just so brilliant, and John Lithgow's character as well.
Yeah, I kind of identified with him a little bit in that film because
Yeah,
as I was young when I saw it, I was like, this guy's, he's trying to figure life out
yeah,
basically, from his own perspective.
yeah.
Now, as far as album music goes, what would that be for you?
Oh man, I've really been into the Beatles lately.
I think anything box set Beatles would take care of it. That would square you away for the whole year because you could listen to it over and over
Yeah,
again.
yeah,
Now, the next question: if you were to go from the time you get up in the morning
for
till the
sure.
time you go to sleep, what would be the component parts of a perfect day for you? Everything's just kind of landed just the way you wanted it to.
I would. Um, I don't know. I'd sleep in. I'd wake up, hang out with my family. No art, like no, just like screaming, just like laughing and having good times. Hang out with some animals. Uh, maybe play some golf. Uh, tend to a garden. Meet some friends for lunch. Uh, hang out with the kids again and play some games, maybe play some basketball with some friends, have a nice dinner, spend some time with my wife, uh, get to bed early.
I like the idea when you get up, you don't have to immediately rush and go get something done. You can kind of ease into your day. I've always liked that idea. It's a luxury a lot of times.
Absolutely.
Now, if you weren't doing this for a living, what would bring you joy? What other vocation could you find yourself doing? Now, granted, you're not just an actor. You've done a lot of different things, but what could you find being okay? This is my primary gig. This is what I'm going to be doing. What would it be besides this?
I do love art, and doing art, like the act of painting or doing art, is something I could get lost in and just have fun. I mean, if I'd have to make money from it, there's all those elements of making money and having to, play that game and, you know, put on a show and all that kind of stuff that goes into stuff like that. Uh, I guess I could play that game, but probably art in some form or music. Yeah.
Now, last question. If you were to jump into the DeLorean and do a little travel back in time, 16-year-old you, what would that one piece of advice be that you would give you for that moment to make things a little easier on you or to kind of set you up on a little different path? Just a piece of advice to 16-year-old you.
Um, I don't know. I mean, I'd have a lot of advice if I could talk to myself. Just to believe in yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. Um, really be in the moment. Like take in the really wonderful moments in life. Uh, really cherish your friends and family, and respect the relationships, and spend time on the things that you love. That's really what is really important, because you end up doing that for a living. You end up, finding happiness and joy through that. So that's what I would always tell my younger self.
All right, there you go, David Arquette. Really enjoyed this conversation. Such a talented guy. By the way, we got to the answer of the 7th question of my 7 questions, then click. The connection just dropped. He shot me a DM over the socials and let me know that it was his end that dropped and he felt bad. And I didn't see a reason to have him come back on just to say goodbye. So very gracious, cool dude. Really enjoyed the opportunity to bring his story to you, because it's one of the more unique ones I've had the opportunity to bring you. So do me a quick favor, make sure to follow Story and Craft, no matter what podcast app you use, or if you're on YouTube, make sure to follow the show so you get notified every time we have a new episode, as well as drop a few stars, little review. A review would be very cool. Whatever you want to do, I appreciate you so much. It just helps folks find the show a little easier and gives them an opportunity to explore my mischief. Also, storyandcraftpod.com, the website, everything you could possibly want to know about the show, it is right there. And that's all I got for you today. I'm going to run get this 4-month-old little tornado of a golden retriever puppy out the door to go take care of his business, and then a little bite to eat. Have a great rest of your day. I appreciate you making our time together part of what you've got going on. So thank you. Okay, so we'll get together next time for another episode of Story and Craft. Talk to you soon.
That's it for this episode of Story and Craft. Join Mark next week for more conversation right here on Story and Craft. Story and Craft is a presentation of Mark Preston Productions, LLC. Executive producer is Mark Preston. Associate producer is Zachary Holden. Please rate and review Story and Craft on Apple Podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. You can subscribe to show updates and stay in the know. Just head to storyandcraftpod.com and sign up for the newsletter. I'm Emma Dillon. See you next time, and remember, keep telling your story.
Come on.